All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Not a lot of time. Let's get things going because I got a lot of things to discuss. Super Bowl time.
Super Bowl time.
Super Bowl Sunday. And look, I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of things to break down, do this. They spend 2 weeks talking about it, and the Chiefs are probably going to win this game. If you're not betting on the Chiefs, I get it. It's not a hot take to say the defending Super Bowl champions are going to do it again. It's just like, look, every year, and maybe some of this is a little bit of Brady syndrome and just dealing with the dynasty before them in New England. I look at a Super Bowl and I go, okay, who has the more experience? Who has the better coach? And who has the better quarterback? You can give me every else thing in the world, and all that's great, and all it's important, I guess, to a point. The run game, all this other stuff, that's all phenomenal. But in the end, who's got the experience? Who's got the better coach? Who's got the better quarterback? And the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's just, I think it's also, again, it's dealing with, we just had this shit in New England. We already just had just the same repeat over and over of boring and just in our face and every single year and being told, oh, it's the GOAT, and you want to see the young upstart come out and prove a point and do things. And hey, certain Super Bowls, no one thought the 16-0 Patriots were going to lose with Randy Moss and Tom Brady. Nobody thought the original Patriots were going to beat the greatest show on turf. There's always these big upsets and blah, blah, blah. If you're betting money or if you're just even trying to sound intelligent, always go with the teams that have the most experience, have the best coach, have the best quarterback. And I'm sorry, that's Kansas City Chiefs. It's nice. It's fun to discuss all the other stuff. It's interesting. But again, usually most Super Bowls. And it's, it's sometimes you have your blowouts and that happens. But almost every Super Bowl, it comes down in the second half and there's one big possession and there's one big third down and there's one big throw. I mean, you can just name Super Bowl after Super Bowl where usually at some point it comes down to one third down and one big throw. And I hate to say it, I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes under that circumstance for any reason, especially with Brock Purdy, who I know is a great story and has proven himself to be very useful. But I mean, it's not Patrick freaking Mahomes. It's not the Kansas City Chiefs. This whole thing it's so interesting. Just coming off of last year, this is the same story. And you can go back and look. This is the Philadelphia Eagles all over again. This is exactly the same shit I heard last year when everyone was trying to explain to me, hey, the Eagles are favored. The Eagles are better overall. The Eagles have been more consistent all season. The Eagles have a better run game. The Eagles have, a pass rush that can cause Patrick Mahomes problems. They have a better offensive and defensive line together. And the line is what controls the outcome of the game. They got more weapons and blah, 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 blah. And at the end, the Chiefs won. San Francisco, you can make all the exact same arguments. They were more consistent in the regular season. They got better offensive and defensive lines. They got a better run game. Their pass rush can cause problems. Their defensive coordinator is going to be able to do all this and that. Although Patrick Mahomes kills the zone, and we all know that they like to run the zone out there in San Francisco, but they have, better O-line, better this, better that, better that, better. Word, do they have Patrick Mahomes? Do they have Andy Reid? I don't give a shit. I got the Chiefs. And anything can happen. Every Super Bowl, we find that out. These things are one-offs. They're spectacles. They're a couple weeks after, usually, everyone, rhythm, momentum, these are all different things that are hard to, be able to reenact going into the Super Bowl game itself. There's always, the bright lights, the biggest thing in the world, Radio Row the year before. This year it's in Las Vegas, which is extra bananas. When you consider these professional athletes are now being the most popular men in the world in Las freaking Vegas. Good luck with that. And all of them, who was the guy way back, the Falcons, who was supposed to be man of the year and caught with a hooker? We haven't heard any stories like that yet, but who knows? They might come up. In the end, though, you can tell me all the same stuff, just like you did last year, about how the Philadelphia Eagles were the better team overall. They were more consistent. They had a better run game. They had better lines. They had more weapons, and blah, 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 blah. And in the end, the Chiefs won. So this year, San Francisco 49ers have a better overall offensive and defensive line. They have a better run game. They have more weapons. They got all this other stuff, but they don't have the best coach. They don't have the best quarterback. And in the end, it's probably going to come down to some big third down that Patrick Mahomes is going to convert. I'm going to have to watch them win again, just like I watched the goddamn Patriots win year after year after year. But after a while, you just learn to stop betting against them. At some point, you just have to, the Albert Einstein quote is technically not actually his, but the definition of insanity is repeating yourself over and over and over. I'm not going to repeat myself this time. I think they win 2 in a row. And I think they end up getting 3 out of 5, and Mahomes starts inching up Goat Mountain. And I think Brock Purdy will be a nice story. Hopefully he has at least a decent enough game to be, put into a longer term contract and a chance to grow. But in the end, this is the Super Bowl. This is the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, is going to be in a dome. Did you know Patrick Mahomes is 13-1 in a dome? So if you give him fair playing conditions, it's hard to beat him. Not to mention the only 2 quarterbacks to beat him in the playoffs are named Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. And Brock Purdy, for everything he's done, Mr. Irrelevant's a great story. I don't have him beating him or putting him on the level of Joe Burrow, and especially not Tom Brady. So to have the San Francisco 49ers winning, no. Do I want to see them win? Absolutely. I'm like you. I don't want to see Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce holding up the damn Lombardi trophy and having to hear about them and do all this other stuff and hearing that Patrick Mahomes is just as good as Tom Brady. I don't want to see any of it. There's a lot of things I don't want to happen in life. Sometimes life's not fair. Don't know what to tell you. So I could do this long breakdown of the Super Bowl. I'm not gonna. This is reminding me of the Patriots year after year after year. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. Every year, someone would give me a reason. They give me 1,000 little stats why, and in the end, it'd be like, word? Really? Cool story, bro. And in the end, they're holding up another Lombardi trophy. Same thing's going on with the Chiefs. They took over literally right after. Tom handed him the torch the same way Ultimate Warrior got the torch handed by Hulk Hogan, if anyone's a wrestling fan like me. And yes, I am a wrestling fan. Leave me alone about that.
It's still real to me, damn it.
The Rock is back, and it's been a whole exciting thing. But the point is, the torch was passed immediately from one legacy to the next, from one dynasty to the next, from one GOAT quarterback to the next. And it's probably going to win another Super Bowl, and there's not much we can do about it. Okay? Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. In more exciting news, and something I'm really interested in, the NBA trade deadline was just yesterday. That was fun. Nothing humongous, but there were moves that were made and there were moves that weren't made that I think are both worthy of discussion. I still have a little bit more Super Bowl topic I'm going to get into here in a second. But let me focus on the NBA trade deadline. NBA trade deadline just came down. And again, not huge moves, but some decent ones. New York, Dallas, and Philadelphia are the 3 that truly interested me. New York Knicks, obviously, I think most people are looking at the New York Knicks because they're right there. The Eastern Conference is clearly up for grabs because Boston, gets to the end of the year finals or Eastern Conference finals. We don't know. Sometimes Tatum shows up, sometimes he doesn't. And they could be, they're not a guaranteed to come out of the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee Bucks have the talent, but they just added Doc Rivers and it's not working so well so far. Now, they also made little tweaks and trades here and there. They got Patrick Beverley to help out their defense, but still, we'll find out more about them. The Cavaliers are actually right up there. No one's paying attention to Cleveland since LeBron left. They're actually really good, but in the end, they're the Cavaliers. And Donovan Mitchell, can they, actually come out of the Eastern Conference? Probably not. And so right underneath and right at that same record as the New York Knicks, who have been cruising and do a lot to their trades. You got to remember, this is now the second of the major trades. Just a little bit ago, they traded for Anunoby, OG Anunoby. Now, he unfortunately has hurt his elbow and he's out for a few weeks. But as he was with them and as they made that first trade, they were the hottest team not named the Los Angeles Clippers. The New York Knicks were 16-4 going into this trade deadline. And now they made a, not a seismic move, but a decent move here with the Detroit Pistons. They got Bogdanovich and Alec Burks and didn't have to give up too much. Grimes will be missed a little bit, but Malachi Flynn, Fournier, Ryan Archer, I'm not going to be able to say his last name properly, and a couple second rounders. This is a team that might be ready. I'm not going to give it to them, especially not over Milwaukee or, Boston. But if you're a Knicks fan for the first time in God knows how long, isn't it nice to say the Knicks are actually good and can win the East? That's since what, Ewing? It's been a minute since we've been able to talk about, the New York Knicks being legit chances to come out of their conference. And with the moves made, Bogdanovich and Burks, it does add shooting. Jalen Brunson is a dog. Injuries are going to be interesting. Again, Anunoby and now Randall are actually both dealing with the injury bug. And we'll see how things move forward. But you got to like with the moves that they made, and I think are the biggest winners coming out of the trade deadline and going forward, obviously. Now, right underneath them is the Dallas Mavericks, and it sucks because I just I don't see it. I think they're trying. I've always found it interesting that in Dallas, Mark Cuban and being in Dallas and in Texas with the taxes and some of the things that are more incentivized to come to Texas, you would think they would have a better, record of getting free agents and big trades and stuff. And they try their best to make big moves. And once again, this swing is not a complete miss. I just don't know if it's a home run. They got PJ Washington out of Charlotte, and he's a small forward. He can play. Don't get me wrong. The dude's coming off 2 40-point games. So when the Mavericks say, hey, we made a big splash in the right before the trade deadline, we got PJ Washington, who's just coming off 2 40-point games in a row. All we had to give up was Grant Williams, who we didn't really want anyways. We brought him in this year. Turns out locker room didn't really like him that much. Seth Curry, who I think is underrated, but they weren't using very much, and a first-round pick as well that I believe was also through another trade. So to get PJ Washington and Gafford from from Charlotte, and then PJ Washington from Charlotte, and Gafford is from Washington there, a center there, an athletic center who's been starting in Washington. Now, Washington has sucked ass out loud, but I mean, he specifically has looked like a good young piece, and all you had to give up was Holmes, who you weren't using very much, and then OKC first. So you look at the starting five now of Dallas with this new trade deadline moves that they made. You got Luka at point, or Kyrie, but they're going to be switching from the two guard spots. You got Green probably at small forward. Now you got PJ playing a slash mix kind of forward, and then Derek Lively or Gafford at center. This is a team that obviously is all in Luka they trust. I mean, Luka is going to be kind of like the Jokic. They're going to kind of come and go as he goes, or Philadelphia with Embiid. They are that centric around just that one guy, and it's Luka freaking Doncic, who just came off 73 goddamn points. So obviously they've had some success and have had, at least some glimpses that they could beat just about anybody in the West. Is Washington the thing that makes me go, oh, damn, like, oh, here comes Dallas? Not in the West. If it was in the Eastern Conference, I think that's a big move. In the Western Conference, it's cool. It's not bad. Cool story. It's nice. You still average 118 points per game allowed right now, and I don't know how much PJ Washington, who loves to score, helps your defense. Gafford's a nice piece, but is he going to be able to be a center, Tyson Chandler-esque kind of center that you can, just basically anchor your defense around? No. He's nice. Dallas is nice. I wouldn't really want to see them in the playoffs, although they are very ISO and slow, and I think can be easily figured out more defensively than some other Western Conference teams, other than how the hell do you stop Luka or Kyrie when they're both going? But there's only one ball between the two of them. I like PJ. He can score, but he's not that great defensively. Gafford's a nice piece, but he's not a starting center. He's not some world-beating shot blocking, Ibaka in his time, or, it's not that level. But it's cool. Cool for you, Dallas. I keep rooting for you guys to kind of make it over the hump, but I don't think this did it. The Philadelphia one is the most interesting as far as this is a true contender. New York says they're a contender. We'll see. Philadelphia actually looked like before the Embiid injury that they really were, right up there with Milwaukee and Boston as men. These guys can actually come out of the Eastern Conference. These guys are legit. Obviously having Embiid go down with a knee injury, and they're saying 4 weeks. Once again, we'll see. That's a meniscus injury and is going to require a lot of time. They said up to at least 4 weeks. So, I mean, there's still a lot to do there. But to get Buddy Hield on a team that was mid-level in three-point shooting, this is a career 15.7 points per game guy and a career 40% three-point shooter and can shoot the lights out when he's actually on and going. And you would think if and when Embiid can come back healthy, Buddy Hield might have been the steal of this entire trade deadline when you consider teams and fits and what can they be used for, and didn't have to give up hardly much at all. I mean, Indiana Pacers, I don't know what y'all were thinking. I mean, you gave up Buddy Hield for what, 3 second rounders? I mean, I know you're going to lose him in free agency, but damn, that's it's an interesting thing. Now, his deal does expire at the end of the year, but this is twofold awesome for Philly because now Philly can say, look, either we continue to keep him if he plays well for us with Embiid going forward, or we let him go in an expiring deal. All we gave up was 2 second-round picks, and now we got $55 million in cap space to go get another dog to join their dog they already got there. So shout out to Philly, did a great job. Now, obviously, the little also getting rid of Beverly for Payne and then Springer as well opened up a few roster spots that they can now do the buyout market. That'll be interesting there too. But I mean, all this goes through Joel. I know that falls into the no shit category. But I mean, without Joel Embiid, they're 4-12. Without Joel Embiid, they have no shot. Now, if they get Joel back, and I think he will at least make an attempt to play this year, getting Buddy Hield for just a few second-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and then Furkan Korkmaz, who I always like saying his name because if you slur it, because, you know, if he hits a few shots, like, Furkan Korkmaz. Friggin' shot. What a friggin' lucky shot. And Morris, you know, that really wasn't sacrificed much to put yourself possibly now into another level when you consider the spacing that a Buddy Hield can provide. So those were the 3 big trades and moves that went down with, again, New York getting not just Anunoby earlier in the season, but now getting Bogdanovich and Burks, the Mavs getting P.J. Washington and Gafford, and then Philly, of course, getting Buddy Hield for just a few second rounders. It's the teams that stood pat, though, that I would really like to get into. And one of the first ones, I know a lot of Los Angeles Lakers fans pretty pissed off out there.
Frustrating. Frustrating. It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
So the LA Lakers stood pat. The LA Lakers are 27-26. They're currently in 9th place. They just came off a loss just yesterday to the Denver Nuggets during Kobe's statue night. So congratulations to you guys for blowing it during Kobe's Black Mamba jersey night and statue unveiling and everything else. Blew it in the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter. However, on a lighter note, you did beat the Boston Celtics recently without LeBron or Anthony Davis. You did just beat the New York Knicks, who, by the way, were the second hottest team in the league, not named the Los Angeles Clippers. And you beat the Charlotte Hornets, which, you know, isn't really a big deal, but you did it. You know, they were put in front of you and you got it done. Then you lost to the defending champs at the end of the game. So that's not really that crazy. I think what y'all are more upset about and what you are unfortunately the victims of the media markets loving the LA Lakers and wanting to talk about the LA Lakers is they had y'all gassed up that you were going to make all these big moves and give LeBron another piece, just like we have to hear every single year. You know, they're going to get Zach LaVine. Well, the injury threw that away. They were going to get DeJounte Murray. Turns out they don't have enough pieces and they were asking too much. They were going to get Bruce Brown, which, okay. That was at least an idea, I guess. Buddy Hield would have actually helped you guys, and I actually do believe some media members' theories that possibly that is like a Pelinka. We don't like Pelinka from his days as an agent, or we just don't like the way he smells, or just something about him, because you would have thought that, you know, for Buddy Hield, that Pelinka probably would have said, I'll give you a few second rounders and a couple who gives a shits. And I don't know, that just somehow that didn't go down. But in the end, you know, you guys are standing pat, and my question, and I think this is important. The question I have for you guys is that how important really, if we're going to be honest with ourselves then, because all the last year and a half, I've heard a lot of things. So if LA Lakers fans are so upset about y'all standing pat, not making any big moves, then why, oh, why did we talk about the Western Conference Finals appearance so much, your A++ off season, your in-season tournament championship, and, you know, starting all-star GOAT? If all of that was really as big a deal as you made it out to be, then why aren't you just happy with where you're at? And let me just kind of get into this, because this is the frustration again that I live with you LA Lakers fans, is you constantly want to hype a lot of things up and blow it in our face. And it's not just the fan base, it's the media as well. It's of course having LeBron James there, but on and on and on. Boy, all damn year, it's been driving me nuts.
Frustrating.
Western Conference Finals last
Frustrating.
year. You know, the in-season tournament, the starting all-star for the 39-year-old, da-da-da-da-da. And then you don't get another all-star thrown to you at the end of the trade deadline, and suddenly you're crying and you're bitching and you're moaning and you sound like a bunch of babies. So again, you know, this wasn't this long ago. Does any Lakers fan actually remember this? Y'all were supposed to have the best offseason in the history of off seasons. This is one of the reasons I don't know why y'all are so mad that you guys stood pat. I mean, just this offseason, this last one, everyone graded you guys A or A+. Every media member, everybody looking at it, every scout, every general manager, everyone that was asked that said, who had the best offseasons out of everyone in the entire NBA, at least at top 2, if not everyone's number 1, was Los Angeles Lakers. Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers had the best offseason. Rob Pelinka might be GM of the year. This might be one of the best offseasons we've ever seen. I mean, these guys extended Anthony Davis. They were able to re-sign Reeves and Rui, who were crucial in their Western Conference Finals appearance. They were able to keep D'Angelo Russell. They were able to get big free agents and Gabe Vincent, Christian Wood, and Torian Prince, and Jackson Hayes, and look at all this youth and things they solidified around already, the greatest of all time, along with Anthony Davis. And boy, they just came off a Western Conference Finals with all this new group. They're going to kick all sorts of ass. And then we get halfway through the year, and suddenly you guys are just crying because you don't have, well, we didn't get DeJounte Murray. We didn't get another all-star. Look, what do you want? You were supposed to have your whole team set, and now you guys are crying.
You crying, boy? You crying, boy? Maybe we'll go back down to McDonald's and get you a Lambo.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. This is, it's an interesting debate, but if you guys had the best offseason in the world, why should you be so pissed off? Just not even this much later in the season. Again, you extended Davis. You kept Reeves. You got Rui. Rui was great in the Western Conference Finals. D'Angelo Russell, who was really one of the only ones that you guys had a question mark on, and let me put this up, has been phenomenal. That was really the only one. They're like, oh, re-signing D'Lo. I don't know if that was a great idea. D'Angelo Russell's been one of the best parts of your team. Do you need a reminder on this? Let me go ahead and put it up for you. Coming from January and February, the last 2 months, D'Angelo Russell has averaged 22.2 points a game, 6.4 assists, 46% from the field goals, and 45% from the three-point line. D'Angelo Russell has been clearly, not named LeBron or AD your third best player. Austin Reeves right now to me is below D'Angelo Russell when it comes to impact on the team. So the only question mark in your supposedly amazing, perfect offseason that made Pelinka general manager of the year was D'Angelo Russell, and he's actually kicking ass. So again, I look back and I go, I thought you guys were right there. I thought you guys were right there from the Western Conference Finals. I thought you guys, after this offseason, were solidified, and now you need another move. I need to understand. I don't really quite, get it. And then again, and I'll move on to my next point of why are y'all so mad about standing pat? I thought you guys were the in-season tournament champions. The in-season tournament, the historic first ever in-season tournament champions. That was a big deal, right? That was a holy crap. We made history. I remember the direct quotes right after you guys did it. I remember ESPN, the first line that they wrote said they now broke the tie with the Boston Celtics, that the Lakers and Celtics were tied for titles, but now with the in-season tournament championship, the LA Lakers have one above Boston. I remember LeBron. And I'll put this quote up. Do y'all remember this? The king himself. Right after he did it, records will never be broken. But one thing that will never be broken is the first to do something. We were the first to ever do it. I was the MVP of the tournament. This was the first time we've all made history. Let's forget the fact that I was the third leading scorer that game, and I probably didn't deserve that trophy, but you guys made history. It was the first ever. Yes, all you did was beat the 14th seeded Blazers, the 13th seeded Grizzlies, the 10th seeded Jazz, the injured Phoenix Suns, but you did beat two number 6 seeds to finally get that title in New Orleans and Indiana. But Anthony Davis, wasn't he? He was a force, man. The dude had 41 points, 20 rebounds, and 4 blocks that game. LeBron was the first ever, in-season tournament MVP. You guys made history. No one else had done it before. No one else is going to be able to say they did it after that. MJ was never the first in-season tournament MVP. Kobe was never the first in-season tournament MVP. This was some huge freaking deal. You played on blue and red and painted courts, right? This was oh my God, one of the biggest things proving that you had championship medal. I just heard this 2 months ago. It was 2 damn months ago. I had to hear y'all try to tell me what a big deal this was. And now you don't get anything you want from the trade deadline. And suddenly that doesn't matter. The offseason doesn't matter. The in-season tournament championship doesn't seem to matter anymore. All these things that were this needs to be front page news. This puts us above the Boston Celtics all time. This makes LeBron even more into his own special category of GOAT. When you consider Jordan's never won an in-season tournament, forget the fact that it never actually existed before then. And it was, obviously couldn't be able to do it. But somehow this elevated him. Just think about it. In the last 7 years, all LeBron, has accomplished here. In the last 7 seasons, LeBron now has a bubble championship and an in-season tournament championship. Just unbelievable. Oh, craziness. What did Jordan do from 31 to 38 years old? Three-peat? Gives a shit. I've seen people three-peat. I've never seen anybody get a bubble championship and an in-season tournament championship in just 7 years. That's a... whatever. I'm just saying. So now we've gone into, you had supposedly the best offseason of anybody in the NBA. You guys were the in-season tournament champions. That was supposed to be a big deal. That was supposed to be proving that you had championship medal. Didn't matter that you had to beat mostly nothing but the worst teams in the league to actually get that trophy. It was supposed to prove that you guys were ready for the, the postseason going forward. And again, just recently, the, in-season tournament MVP, the supposed greatest of all time, wasn't he just voted a starting all-star along with Anthony Davis? So shouldn't you have the 1-2 punch that's necessary to make your way into the championship again? I mean, if you have the GOAT, who clearly must still be good, and look, it's not like he's not. I mean, look, he is averaging, LeBron James, for all sarcasm aside, is averaging 24.9 points a game, 7.4 rebounds, and 7.6 assists at 39 years old in his 21st year. When you talk about LeBron, the thing you're always going to have to point out, and I think the thing that actually he does clearly have over, Jordan or anybody else, is the longevity. That he was able to do it and be very good for a much longer period of time than any athlete before him and maybe after. I mean, it's going to be a while before we see somebody be this dominant and this important for, 20 damn years. However, the idea that he was a top 5 player in the Western Conference and was voted a starting all-star when those 24.9 was good for 16th in scoring and his 7.4 rebounds are good for 33rd in rebounds and his assist put him at 8th. He's not top 5 in any statistical category, but somehow he's voted a top 5 player in the entire Western Conference. This is the type of thing that annoys the rest of us, but it should then be able to, give you confidence, because if you want to argue with me and you want to agree that he's better and that he's a GOAT and he's still at a very high level, a top 5 in the West level, then what are you bitching about? Why do you need other big moves? I mean, you have, the GOAT who's still, a top 5 player in the league, at least a top 5 in the Western Conference, somehow was voted above SGA, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and who was the other small forward there? Anthony Edwards. He's still more impactful, apparently, than those 3 small forwards. They had to be put into the reserve all-star team below the captain there. So, he might be old. He might be in his 21st year. He might be kind of close to where MJ probably would have been in the 98, 99 years if he would have not, retired once again after a second three-peat. But I mean, this should be enough between him and Anthony Davis, who, by the way, that was the other part, was that, Anthony Davis, he's going to have to stay healthy. That was the reason we had some up and downs the last couple of years. Anthony Davis has played 49 of the 53 games this year and has been phenomenal. Anthony Davis has been very good. Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So you have a top 5 player in the Western Conference on your team. You have a possible Defensive Player of the Year in Anthony Davis. You had the best offseason. You're the in-season tournament champs. You're supposed to have all these different weapons in use and all this other stuff, and you still have the GOAT, and somehow you guys are still bitching that you don't have enough. I really need you to explain it to me.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
What do you want me to say? That, you need more help? Every team could obviously use more help all the time. Every single team, no matter how good, could always use another player. I don't know what else y'all technically need. The bigger issue, and this is something LA Lakers fans are going to have to wrap your heads around, is LeBron has not only left your cupboard bare because of the pressure that he puts on your team. You do realize he's gone, right? Like, I still don't know if LA Lakers fans are really, and some people are starting to talk about it, but are enough people really coming to peace with the fact LeBron James is leaving the Los Angeles Lakers next season. He is going to go where Bronny goes. Bronny will be, whether he deserves it or not, in the NBA draft next year. You cannot afford to pick him as a Los Angeles Laker, and wherever Bronny goes is where LeBron goes. He is really not even that emotionally invested into the season. I think that's one of your bigger problems. Not that you don't have the talent, not that you don't have the coach, not that you don't have the bench, not that you don't have X, Y, or Z. Your biggest problem is that your supposedly GOAT and greatest player you have on your team, I don't think really gives a shit about this year. He's just trying to grind it through. Doesn't really believe you guys can win a title because he knows no matter what happens, I get to go play with my kid next year. LeBron James is leaving you, Los Angeles Lakers fans. Wrap your head around it.
You're psychic. You can predict the future.
It's going to happen. Here's the scenario. He did not just leave your cupboard bare Other teams have been stock loading picks for years now. Here's the dilemma just in a nutshell of why it's going to happen. Bronny James, no matter whether he deserves it or not, and look, he's a great kid, and I'm rooting for him because he came back from a cardiac arrest, which is a huge deal, and that alone, after surgery and everything else, is enough to give that man a round of applause, not to mention dealing with the shadow of a LeBron James has got to be hard on any athlete well enough playing the same sport as your dad, and now being able to possibly play alongside him. It's going to be a whole new level of spotlight and pressure that not even he has had before. But the fact is, he's only averaging 5.8 points per game, 3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. He's shooting 36% from the field and 26% from the three-point line. Bronny doesn't deserve to go to the NBA draft next year. However, he is going to, because every team knows what I know and what apparently a lot of y'all don't. With Bronny, you get LeBron, at least for another couple years. And that is at least still good for 25.7 rebounds, 7 assists per game, not to mention mentor, leadership, veteran, good dude. I mean, nobody really says anything about LeBron being a distraction or a problem in a locker room, not to mention still being considered one of the top 5 players of all time, 25, 7, and 7. Everyone seems to know, besides the ones that don't want to admit it, that, he is going to go wherever his kid goes, even though his kid doesn't deserve to be in it. He will be in the draft next year, and you guys can't afford him. The LA Lakers only have a few picks in the next few years. You do understand that, right? The New Orleans Pelicans have control over your pick next year. You might not even have a first-round pick at all. Meanwhile, the Boston Celtics, Houston Rockets, Atlanta Hawks, the New Orleans Pelicans, the New York Knicks, the San Antonio Spurs, there are multiple teams next year that have not just multiple first-round picks, but picks they can just throw away. And the Bronny James pick, because of what has happened, not only with his health, but with his production, is going to be an investment at best. If you only have 1 or 2 picks in next year's draft, you can't, quote, throw one away. All those teams I just mentioned can throw one away and go get Bronny, knowing that LeBron comes with it. And that is your problem in Los Angeles. That's why you're going to have to make peace with the fact that he's gone. LeBron is going to leave. Some other team is going to take a flyer on him, and why not? If you're the San Antonio Spurs, why not? I get LeBron to mentor Victor Wembanyama. If I'm the New York Knicks and I'm one piece away, I got plenty of picks I can use right now. I got them stockpiled. Why not? I'll go get LeBron James and go try to chase the title for the next couple of years. If I'm the Boston Celtics, I got multiple first-round picks. I might do it just to dick with the Lakers. Honestly, there are so many teams: Boston, Houston, Atlanta, New Orleans, New York, San Antonio. They all have multiple first-round picks. They can throw one away if they want to on a Bronny, on an investment. You can't in Los Angeles. You cannot as an LA Lakers. So, anyways, think I made sense? Good. All right. Moving on to the other team I want to discuss, and a team that I'm much more, into, and I'm actually proud that they stood pat. I want to shout out my boys in Golden State. The Golden State Warriors stood pat, and they should have, because this is a little bit of a homer in me. This is a little bit of being a Steph Curry fan from the time he walked into the league. I've always been a fan of this dude. I've been supporting him from day one, and I still think he is at least a top 10 player in this league. The fact that he wasn't voted a starting all-star is embarrassing to not just the voting fan base, but the other parts of that did not put him in above SGA or whoever else. It's Steph freaking Curry. He is still that dude. However, the Warriors as a whole did not make a big move. They didn't trade Clay, obviously Dre, or even Wiggins or Chris Paul or whoever else. And I want to tell you guys, you actually saved the day. You guys are ready to go on a tear. The Golden State Warriors are going to go on a tear. By not making any moves, they saved their season.
I saved the day.
Yeah,
seems like they got a problem with heroes around here or something.
Let me tell you what.
I saved the day, Betty.
The Golden State Warriors, the only move they did make was they moved out of Corey Joseph. And dude, I'm sure Corey is a wonderful human being, but Corey Joseph was no longer able to contribute at the level that Golden State needed. With Lester Quinones starting to come up, he's going to be the bigger and the cheaper and the just much more overall better option defensively, offensively, contractually. I mean, he just is able to, with his G League contract and two-way, and just be a better player, younger, quicker, and everything else. That was the only move that they made, and even that addition by subtraction was a smart thing for them to do. But in general, this team is now on every sort of the right way, going the right direction. If you're any other team, if you're any other top 4 team in the Western Conference, I look at all of them, including Denver. I look at Denver, I look at Oklahoma City, I look at the LA Clippers, and I look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you don't think the Golden State Warriors can get into a 7-game series and kick your ass, you're not paying attention. And I'm glad that things happened the way that they did. In the end, the we'll see story of sometimes you need a bad start in order to get to a brighter future. People forget about the Miami Heat just last year and other times where a lower seed has been able to make a run. I am not just saying this as a fan. I'm watching this team consistently, and Golden State has every single thing they need to do in order to make that run. They are starting to move in that direction. Yes, they're only 24-25. I know they're in 9th place, but they have won 3 in a row. They've won 5 of their last 6. They're 4-1 on this road trip, and they look absolutely phenomenal in some of the ways that are most important, including that they don't need Steph Curry to be super Steph every single night. They don't have to hit the threes, at 60% in order to win like they did at the beginning of the season. And that is the biggest thing to me. That is, the reason, I guess, that I'm talking like this and have so much hope for them and so glad that they didn't make any drastic move at the trade deadline. I mean, the fact is the Golden State Warriors not only had one of the toughest starts off the court and, just other issues, including the Draymond suspension and assistant coach dying. They've had heartbreakers this year, 4 18-point blown leads. They've lost multiple one-point or overtime games. Injuries to CP3, to Moody, to, GP. Over and over, they've had injuries. They've had assistant coach die. They've had to take a week off to grieve for that. They've had Draymond get suspended. They had blown multiple 18-point leads. They have also the toughest schedule. I don't think most people realize that. Golden State Warriors played the toughest schedule statistically in the entire NBA, and we're close in almost all of them. That's the other reason I have so much faith in what's going on. The Golden State Warriors, just so you know, were in 34 of their 49 games were clutch games, meaning that they were within 5 points with 5 minutes left in the game. And in those games, they have a 16-18 record. So let's stop, take it back and explain exactly what that means. So again, out of 34 of their 49 games, 69%, the Golden State Warriors are in clutch games, meaning that they were within 5 points with 5 minutes left and have a 16-18 record in those 34 games. If they had just won 5 more of those close games with their 24-25 record, if you just have 5 of those games go their direction, they are now 29-20, which will put them 5th in the Western Conference and would have them only 4 games behind from first place in the entire Western Conference. They still have a point differential, even though they've been losing some of those games, of a plus 1.3 overall. That actually puts them 7th in the West. That puts them above Sacramento, and that puts them above the Dallas Mavericks in that metric. So to review all that, they played a lot of close games. They've actually still have a higher plus-minus differential than some of the teams that are above them. And if they would have won just 5 more of those 34 games, they would be in 4th place right now, only a few games out of 1st, and looking like they are just the contender everyone thought they were going to be. They're on a win streak, and they look phenomenal. And a lot of this has to do with a lot of different things. But I mean, the first thing I got to point out is the youth movement. The youth movement that has come, this whole new wave that we thought was going to come last year has come humongously in the last about month or so. It's been led, of course, by Brandon Podziemski, who learned to say his name right. It's Podzim, a bunch of stupid stuff, and it has a J sound in it. Brandon Podziemski is now 5th in the Rookie of the Year. I don't know if most people, pay attention to that because, of course, of Holmgren and Wemby. But Brandon is at the 5th right now, ranking as the top 5 rookies in the entire NBA draft from last season. He's been great. Trace Jackson-Davis was a steal, and if you listened to me way long ago, you would have known I told you that. He's been a great player out of Indiana. He's doing phenomenal as the 57th pick. We have Lester Quinones, a G League guy, replacing Corey Joseph. And again, bye, Corey. I'm sure you're an awesome human, but you just didn't have it anymore. Guy Santos, the Brazilian man bun Rodman, can actually shoot some threes pretty well, as going on there too. But you combine all 4 of those guys, they're adding hustle, they're adding defense, they're adding youth, they're doing things that people that are either on G League 1 year or rookie deals, are doing that the veterans just weren't doing when they weren't being, put into these games. They're diving for loose balls. They're fighting for offensive rebounds. They're sacrificing their body, and it's giving a lot less pressure taken off of the other stars and allowing them to be stars. And the biggest thing, and I got to shout this dude out, Jonathan Kuminga is that dude. Jonathan Kuminga has been everything that we would hope he would be and more. And a lot of it ever since the haircut. You know, it's funny. You could really pinpoint the Jonathan Kuminga, rise in Golden State to a couple things. First of all, the haircut was, discussed a lot, as I even have the thing here. We can go ahead and look at it. They've been putting up the stats. It was passed around on Instagram. Before the haircut, when he had the pimpy, long stocking kind of look that I wasn't really a fan of, he was only averaging 12.8 points per game, 28% from threes, 4 rebounds. Since the haircut, though, he has been just a whole new man. 21 points a game, 44.8% from three-point line and 6 boards. And that's actually a, graphic from a few games ago. He's actually improved in all those categories, rebounds, points, and three-point percentage. But the bigger one that I really think was the game changer for Kuminga was when he was benched in Denver. And they blew that big lead at the end of the game. And even though he was starting to really show that he was kind of breaking through to that next level, Kerr wanted to cling to his old ways, didn't want to play Kuminga at the end of the game, thought Wiggins was playing better, blah, 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 a bunch of bullshit excuses. But in the end, I think that caused everyone to kind of take a 180 and go, dude, this kid is doing things and adding parts to the game and to our offense and our defense that we don't have if we don't play him. He's very valuable. And now we've learned he's valuable. He's starting to grow in confidence. He shaved the head and he is kicking all sorts of ass. Jonathan Kuminga is an animal. He's not just scoring, again, 45% from threes. He takes those when he's open. What he's really done and what has really changed the Golden State Warriors' future is that he gets so many points in the paint. He attacks the rim. He just goes. The old Golden State offense was so goddamn annoying because all they would do was this college spread, throw it into Draymond, double, triple screen, run around. And even in this year, as you watch them struggle early on, there were plenty of times where it was a Kuminga or Wiggins that had a mismatch, that within the offense would have a mismatch and weren't allowed to just go, hey, you got a 6'2 guy on a 6'8 Jonathan Kuminga or Andrew Wiggins. Good freaking luck. Take him to the hole. Take our easy 2, and then let's move on, and then we can run the offense the next time. Kerr has adjusted, and it's been humongously different in the way that everything goes down because now these big leads they're able to keep because they're not reliant on we just have to, make a lot of threes and stay hot from the outside. With Kuminga and Wiggins both having not just the Kuminga resurgence, Wiggins has been playing much better, and because they're both being allowed to do what they do. And I mean, it shouldn't have taken this damn long for him to get it, but at least he did. We're able to finally go, you know what? We have 2 slashers. We have 2 guys who could take advantage of these shorter people when they switch onto them. Why don't we let them go to the hole? I mean, it's a brilliant idea.
I like that idea, and I will support it.
I think any asshole could have figured it out, but Kerr finally did, or at least somebody above him in management said, dude, this is what you're going to do from now on, but it's working. It's working. They're able to hold on to these big leads that they've been able to get through the Steph Clays and everyone else getting on 3 flurries or, getting on the runs that we've seen Golden State do. And the big thing, and this is something I want a lot of y'all to watch for. If you're a Golden State fan, look at what they're doing now. They're running an inverted pick and roll. This is an interesting little wrinkle that Kerr has done specifically. I don't know if it came from him, but he's running it with Kuminga. This is the main reason Kuminga is one of the leaders now at points in the paint scored and looks like one of the best rookies out there. Matter of fact, he kind of looks like Amari Stoudemire and if Sean Marion had a baby, and why he is being so dominant and able to get so many easy buckets. They are now running an inverted pick and roll where it's not where Kuminga sets the screen for Steph or Clay. They're switching it to where now Kuminga or Wiggins can get the ball at the top of the key, and it's Steph or Clay that is setting the screen, and it is causing all sorts of confusion, and it is a brilliant idea because basically you're up shit's creek because they have enough shooters on the outside to where you can't bring that extra wing. And if Curry or Clay sets that screen and Kuminga or Wiggins and now have the green light to just say, hey, dude, if they give you that corner, if they give you the mismatch, you just take them right to the rack. It is either try to stop that and leave Steph or Clay wide open from threes, or you have to allow the switch and let Kuminga or Wiggins go at your shorter guy, especially when they set the screen with Steph Curry. Whoever is the little 6'2", 6'3" guy, let him try to hold Kuminga or Wiggins one-on-one, and it's not working. And there really hasn't seemed to be any defensive coach so far that's been able to figure out how to stop it. They're doing it more and more. So keep an eye on that. It's an inverted pick and roll where Steph sets the pick instead of people setting the pick for him. And it's usually with Kuminga, and it works great. And it's actually working a lot with Wiggins too, where it's setting up a mismatch that they just don't know how to handle. It's a brilliant idea. It's allowing them to score points in the paint. The Golden State Warriors are now finally winning games by actually outscoring teams in the paint. They're able to out-ugly you now with all their young guys. They're doing and winning in ways that we have not been able to see them do it. And I think they're just, I really, really feel this team's on a close chance for a run. This is a team that's been close all year. And again, I'll shout out Steve Kerr. I'll shout out Draymond Green. Draymond Green has been phenomenal since the return from his suspension. Again, sometimes you need to take a step back to take two forward. I think finally being suspended indefinitely and having his own teammates and his own coaches just finally go like, bro, we just can't do it anymore. Like, you just got to cut the horse shit. And for him to come back with the focus and maybe some of the anger management and other things that he needed, I think has been phenomenal. He has finally been the Draymond Green I've been lectured that is so important for years and hadn't really seen, especially in the last couple of years. I'm seeing it now. He's he still talks a little bit, but he's staying within himself. He's doing all the rebounds and defense and screens and leadership, all the stuff I've been lectured that Draymond's done. He is doing now to the umpteenth degree, and he has been just a godsend, and he stayed out of trouble. Steve Kerr, for all the times I've bitched about him, has gotten away from the small ball. That's been a big thing. I've watched him actually put, Wiggins, Looney and Saric all in at the same time and go big, or Gee, Looney and Saric and go big lineup. I mean, that's something he never did before. I'm watching him run pick and roll. It's an inverted pick and roll with Steph setting the screen, but still he's simplifying the offense and figuring out ways to just get easy buckets and get to the basket and get free throws. He is doing things. Draymond's doing things differently. The youth movement is coming together to where they're now in this win streak, winning games without having to make Steph Curry be Superman. And that is really, in the end, what you're going to need if you're going to make a upset run. So, yes, I know they're 24-25. Yes, I know they're in ninth place. I'm telling you, they've won 5 of 6. They look good. The way they're winning, they look good. And their strength in numbers has always been their motto. And with everyone healthy, I will argue the Golden State Warriors have the deepest 12 of anybody else in the NBA. Anybody else in the NBA. And let me know if you think I'm wrong. I mean, I'm talking about at the guard position, you got Steph, you got Clay, you got CP3, you got Gary Payton coming back, you got Moses Moody, you got Brandon Pajemski. At the forward spot, we got Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga now is looking like an all-star, Trace Jackson-Davis, Guy Santos is actually a Brazilian Rodman-looking dude, Draymond Green. At center is their weak spot, but still Looney does a lot of the things that you want out of a center. Saric has been a godsend for $3 million. So there is really no weakness other than they could use one big, tall guy that maybe they could still do in a buyout option. We'll see all that going forward. But overall, I will argue strength in numbers has always been the years they've won titles, not besides, obviously the Kevin Durant years, which were kind of their own thing. But when it's been just Steph, Clay, and Dre, it's not been too heavy on them. It's been a reliance on bench, on strength, on waves, on coming at you consistently. And now with everything going forward the way that they did, and by not making any big moves at the trade deadline, I thought the Golden State Warriors did a phenomenal job. I think they're absolutely ready to make a huge playoff run. And if they end up in the Western Conference Finals, just remember who told you I'm usually right to the point of boredom.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
I'm just saying. All right. Looking at the time, I want to do one more thing. I just want to call this. This will just be fun here. Again, Super Bowl is this Sunday. And I already told you, I'm not going to bet against the Chiefs. I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, or a team that has more experience. And just overall, I mean, anything can happen. Every Super Bowl is its own thing. However, this Super Bowl, if I'm going to bet personally, I'm not going against the GOATs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, even though I don't want them to win.
Super Bowl time.
What is interesting to me is the commercials. Honestly, sadly, I'm more interested in that shit than I am really sometimes the game. The Super Bowl commercial has become one of the more interesting and discussed, and at least something that, because this is the one night you try to watch football, you're going to have your girlfriend there, usually your parents or friends or a bunch of people that don't really give a crap about football. The one thing you can all do together is watch these damn commercials, which are finally starting to pick back up and become at least part of the entire pomp and circumstance and spectacle that it once was. And I'm glad to say the highlight of it, just so y'all know, second quarter, start of the second quarter, they have been pumping the hell out of this. Let me go ahead and find this trailer here. This is the one I'm looking forward to. It's Arnold and his agent State Farm. He is on Jimmy Fallon. This is how much they have finally gotten back to understanding and kind of getting to the significance of the Super Bowl commercial, which used to be a big freaking deal for a long time. They got Arnold. He's going to do a 60-second movie. Is what he called it. He went on Jimmy Kimmel and said, it's not just a commercial, it's a movie. It's going to be great, and I'm the star. As, let me see. Oh, here it is. I got it. All right, here we go. This is, I mean, look at this. They got a movie trailer, poster, and everything. These guys are taking this serious. And I'm almost as excited for that as to see if Purdy can actually keep up with Mahomes, throw for throw in the actual game here. At the start of the second, they are going to release, finally, after weeks of been teasing and advertising it, the Agent State Farm movie. The 60-second movie with me, get out of there, there's a bomb, with Arnold, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie. I miss, and I'm glad to see that maybe we're finally getting back. That was a big part of, at least for me growing up, was, you discuss the commercials almost as much as you discuss the game. It's a big part of the game, man. I mean, and look, nowadays, the Super Bowl commercial ad time is $7 million for 30 seconds. There's 100 million plus viewers every year watching this event. Not to mention with the Taylor effect, we don't even know how many more are going to be watching this year. But I mean, this is always one of the most watched, the most anticipated parts of anybody's day. It's always on a Sunday. Almost everybody comes together. And if you're an advertiser, it makes sense that you start taking this shit serious. I'm glad to see State Farm has really kind of pushed it into a whole new level again with the constant, they're doing commercials to preview their commercial. That's got to be some new meta first I've never seen before. They're actually doing teasers and commercials to advertise their upcoming commercial, and it's freaking brilliant. I love it because, again, this is probably, if you do it right, the best thing you can do all absolute year. It's the Super Bowl for them, too. It's the Super Bowl for advertisers. And I've always said this, and, we'll watch and we'll discuss as they go along, and maybe I'll play some of my favorite ones when I come back next time. But to me, a good Super Bowl commercial has to have three things. It's got to stand out. Everyone's going to be trying a little bit, and you can't be afraid to either be weird or to be controversial. So that's my first rule. I got 3 rules for standing out as a Super Bowl ad. The first thing is you have to stand out. You can't be afraid. You have to be either weird, different, or controversial. Number 2 is you got to be funny. I don't think the serious one works. Every year there's usually one of some horrible tragedy or something. And then, Santa Claus comes in and gives them a hug or some shit. And those are, great for a little bit, but I don't remember them the way I remember the funny ones. And that is the third thing is you got to make me remember your product and even better, help me understand what your product is. So again, the most important 3 things to me in a Super Bowl commercial is 1, you got to stand out from the rest. 2, you got to be funny. Don't go serious. And 3, you got to make me remember or you got to make me understand what your product is. So all that being said, I have my own. I have my personal 3. These are my top 3 favorite Super Bowl commercials of all time. What are those? I'm glad you asked. All right, I'll just start off. The first 2 I'm just going to show you and discuss. The third one I'm actually going to let you see here. The third one, when it comes to me for top Super Bowl commercials ever aired ever in NFL history, top 3 commercials of all time in the Super Bowl, 1 would be Apple 1984. That's number 3 for me. Number 3 all-time Super Bowl commercial is the Apple 1984 commercial. Some of y'all are way too young to know what the hell I'm talking about. Maybe some of you saw it referenced in the Steve Jobs movies. But in 1984, to advertise the Macintosh, 40 years ago to the day, basically, Apple basically was the reason we have all these super over-the-top, silly, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger commercials is because in 1984, Steve Jobs was truly ahead of his time and made this epic, as you can see in there. It's like this movie. It was like, when Michael Jackson made music videos, it truly was groundbreaking and was the first time we really kind of came across the idea that the Super Bowl is a great place to showcase an ad. You got to give respect to the GOAT. You got to give respect to the one who set the trend. My number 3 all time would be the 1984 Apple Super Bowl commercial because it at least did 1 and 3. It stood out and it made me remember Apple. Number 2 for me would be Puppy Monkey Baby. And this might be personal for me. This might be not everyone's cup of tea, but to me, this at least did one and it did two. It stood out and it was funny. Again, I just have the picture up if you want to see. This was the advertisement, I believe, in 2016. This was for Mountain Dew's Kickstart, which was an energy drink. And all it was this, AI creation from hell. It was a third man or a third baby, a third monkey, and a third puppy. And the whole damn commercial, you can go find it, is just this thing saying over and over, holding up a Mountain Dew and licking this guy's face on the couch. Puppy, monkey, baby. Puppy, monkey, baby. Puppy, monkey, baby. That's it for 30 seconds. It's just this weird, demon spawn thing just going puppy, monkey, baby for 30 something seconds. And at the end, Mountain Dew, it's got energy and juice or some shit and go drink it. And I remember it to this day. It's still one of my favorites. I still look at that. I personally laughed at that thing. If that thing was next to me in bed, I'd probably jump off the roof. But I mean, again, it did 1 and 2. It stood out and it was funny. It made me laugh. It was weird as shit, but it made me laugh. The greatest commercial of all time, I'm actually going to show you because it's older and they're still in business, but it's 20 something years old and you need to see it in order for the context to go ahead and make sense. So again, my 3 rules are that you have to stand out, got to be funny, and you have to make me remember what the product is or at least what you do. Those are the 3 most important things to a Super Bowl commercial. The only one that's done it to a perfect, absolutely no flaw job was E-Trade with their "We Wasted $2 Million" commercial. Now, E-Trade on its own has kicked ass in this category for years. It's too bad that they struggle so much. I think they still technically are in existence. I think one of the Morgan Stanleys or somebody has them now. But E-Trade for years with the talking baby and stuff, they were some of the best advertisers on television. If you remember any of the E-Trade commercials, so many of them were so goddamn great. The best one, though, by far, and my favorite Super Bowl commercial of all time, is the "We Wasted $2 Million" commercial. This came out in 2000. And I just brought this up because we were discussing this topic like 3 weeks ago, and an advertising person even said, this is one that we use and we show other people as an example because, again, it stood out, it was funny, and it made you remember the product. So without further ado, what am I talking about? I'll show it to you right now. This was the commercial that to me is the greatest of all time ever in Super Bowl history. Let me roll it. I'm going to stop it and I'm going to replay it here because I just want you to understand you're not missing anything. You are looking exactly what you think you're looking at. That is 2 old men sitting at a garage with a monkey in a t-shirt dancing to Latin music for the last 15 seconds. That's all you watched, but I will replay it again. The greatest commercial ever in Super Bowl history. Here we go. Cut to, we just wasted $2 million. What are you doing with your money?
It's time for E-Trade, the number one place to invest online.
That is the best, smartest, most well thought out, well put together commercial ever in history, not just in Super Bowl, in my opinion, but just of all time. I remembered that 20 something years later because it did the 3 things that you need me to do. It stood out, it made me laugh, and it made me go, oh, that's what you guys do. You invest money. It was the most perfectly, I don't know who did that. I don't know if they got a raise, he or she, whoever. They deserve their own mansion for that because that is still today, in my opinion, the greatest commercial ever in history, easily in Super Bowl history. If you have another one, let me know, put it in the comments or just, let me know what you think. But to me, nothing ever beats that one. That's the GOAT. All right. Super Bowl Sunday. Go Niners. I ain't betting on you. But we'll see. See you next time.